think there's a purpose for replay, but I do think there is going to be human error, and some of it just needs to be left alone because you can't stop for everything.
Right.
I mean, there's maybe the linesmen need to learn to start watching when the play is specifically in the zone. Maybe the linesman that's on the opposite side for the other team watching their blue line, maybe he needs to watch for, the contact and watching for, cheap shots and stuff like that. So he can be like an extra eye out there or something like that. But too much replay is not the answer either. And it always seems that replay gets added after there's a big missed call in a playoff game. If that play happens in the regular season, we're not talking about more replays.
Right.
But because it cost them arguably and likely a trip to the Cup Finals, now we're going to have more replay from it. Right. Or maybe you do something about adding, like Lonnie said, or adding an extra official somewhere else above the ice to see exactly what's happening for playoff games. Or something. I mean, I don't know, but
I kind of like the idea of empowering the linesmen more. You give them not an orange armband, but you give them a solid black armband or something. I know you can't do black, but you know what I mean. So solid white armband or something like that, whatever. So you expand their purview, and I don't mean to suggest that linesmen aren't busy enough already, but if you're the weak side linesman. Are you looking at scrums in front of the net or the corner or looking for that kind of contact or whatever, looking for Marchand doing something stupid? That kind of thing. I kind of like that. I mean, I don't want to. Obviously nobody's advocating for adding another person on the ice, but
no.
But I would rather see that type of thing be explored before we go down the road of everything gets reviewed. Kind of thing. But even though I accept that we're going to go down the road of everything that gets reviewed, but I'm just talking about my personal preference.
I heard two interesting premises around the hand pass. One, think about how much time has been spent in thought, discussion, reviewing that play in the San Jose St. Louis series.
Mm-hmm.
Can you guys ever remember another play in any game you've ever watched that was anything similar to that?
No.
And that's the kind of fervor that replay review has stirred up, where a 1 in a million oddball play has caused all this consternation and all this time and energy spent on reviewing the rules. That's one interesting premise I've heard that I completely agree with.
Just that this is a one-off, so why worry about it?
Yes.
Okay.
The other interesting thing that I've heard, and I've heard it from several people, the one that I distinctly remember hearing say it was Lou Nanny. If we're trying to get more offense into the game, why are hand passes illegal then?
Right.
Which, again, unintended consequences. Then we're sitting here reviewing a play for 10 minutes to decide if a player closed his hand on the puck in the process of making what would then be a legal hand pass. So I don't know. That hand pass play bothers me.
Well, that's an interesting perspective, and I'm not surprised that it came from Lou, but yeah, I mean, okay, so unless you're batting it into the net, like with kicking, but also let's throw kicking in there, who cares? Right? I mean, close your hand on the puck, maybe not in the crease defensively. Okay, I get that because we want to increase offense, right? So let's keep that illegal. But otherwise, why not make a hand pass as long as it doesn't go directly into the net after that?
Right. And that was the premise of it.
But the same thing with kicking. I mean, why not allow people to kick it to their teammate instead of pass it with their stick to their teammate?
So allowing the puck to be kicked into the goal?
No, not in the goal. No. But I mean, and I realize you can do that, right? But it's kind of the same thing, right? I mean, it's a skill, and I don't know why we need whatever. My point is, I also like the idea of exploring and expanding the current on ice officials' responsibilities and purview before overdoing it with replay. I also like the idea of that type of a rule tweak, making it okay to make a hand pass unless it goes directly in the goal, before going down the road of more and more and more replay as well. I would rather see that than just go again, and with the same stipulation that I understand that we are going to go down the road of more replay.
I think legalizing hand passes would, I think, again, unintended consequence would be more and longer replay reviews.
But why? It's a hand pass, but the hand pass is legal at that point.
Okay. So are you going to depend on video to tell you whether or not a player closed his hand on the puck, therefore making the hand pass illegal?
No, I say you let them do that as long as they're not doing it defensively in their own crease.
Let's just give them lacrosse sticks then.
Well, but wait a minute. Well, but you already have a glove. Like, I mean, adding, I don't understand. I don't understand why that's an issue. Like, how, in the first place, that happens, right? When you catch a puck that's high in the air and then drop it, you're clearly closing your hand around it.
Correct.
Right? Nobody just bats it down, right?
No.
So it's already happening. But I don't know why that's a problem. I mean, again, nobody just bats the puck at somebody else. You grasp it with your hand and you direct it at your feet or at your teammate, legally or illegally. But either way, you're grasping the puck. So what? Let's just make it legal again, unless it goes directly in the net. I'm saying I would rather that happen and see what the ramifications are of that and unintended consequences than make it one less thing for them to have to call.
And that may be something that you might see under some sort of a trial period in the American League. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. I've had a fun show. Let's not talk about the Wild this show. Let's wait till next show.
Oh,
right?
Really?
I mean, you want to talk about them? All right, Lonnie wants to talk about the Wild. So, Mike, we're going to talk about the Wild. What do you got, Lonnie?
Fenton just drives me nuts.
I know. That's why I don't want to talk about them. I'm in a good mood.
I want to get you wound up. It's no fun to just have you all happy and everything.
Oh, Jesus.
That doesn't make for good TV. All right, what? Mike, I had heard you allude to something earlier about Fenton. Can you and that was the first place that I'd heard of it. Something with regards to a certain Vancouver Canuck who may or may not have played his high school hockey in Burnsville. Can you elaborate on that for me, please?
So I didn't listen to Russo on the Athletic Hour, but I saw some tweets about it that Russo said it on Minnesota radio, so I assumed it was on the Athletic Hour. So I listened to it a couple hours ago. And apparently Fenton, and I don't know if it was 1-for-1 or in a package, but he offered Jason Zucker to Vancouver for Brock Besser and basically got laughed off the phone.
I mean, should that not have been the expected reaction?
Well, I mean, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
I guess Carolina would have never gotten Nino had they not floated Rask out there for him and gone, oh, this guy is way too much of an idiot, but let's run it up the flagpole. What?
Nobody can be this stupid, but may as well ask. I mean, look, wait, I don't. It's idiotic, right? But okay, he asked, right? I mean, all he can say is no.
I've gotten to a point where I now literally LOL rather heartily every time I hear Russo break something. I just giggle at the thought of visualizing Fenton's reaction the nanosecond he has figured out Russo's gotten wind of something he didn't want him to.
Well, did you hear his Barrero segment on the other day?
I did not.
Russo's? Barrero flat out read back the Coyle's quote from Russo's article in the Athletic about Coyle and going to Boston and all that stuff, and and Barrero read back the quote where Charlie was going on and on about how great the leadership is on the Boston team and how they do all these little things to make you feel comfortable and big things to make you feel comfortable. And he said something about when I'm on Minnesota, you always hear about how great the leadership is in Boston, but then to get there and it's really that great it's been awesome. And he didn't say, there were no words that came out of his mouth that were directly comparing that to the Wild. But Barrero asked Russo if he thought that was an intentionally also sort of making a comment about the Wild, and without saying the words. And Russo said yes, right? I mean, so and then relayed a story about the last game of the season in Dallas, and he sees Sturm and the other kid that we had up, each going to dinner on their own, and it's their second game ever in the NHL, and one of them's just coming out of college, not even up from the A, and the leadership in the Wild couldn't had other priorities than making sure these kids had someone to go to dinner with, and then he couched it. He put it in context. He said Mika wasn't there and Zach wasn't there, to be fair. So so there is that, but the other leadership who are around. I mean, there are other and every other player on the team who had already been in the NHL for at least more than one game. Nobody else found it in their schedules to invite these rookies out to make sure they had a hot meal before the game in a different city. But in the context, though, the greater context of saying that Fenton has identified this cultural issue on this team and this room issue on this team, and you got to call what it is, a leadership issue on the team, and is according to Russo, trying to work on it, trying to address it, whatever. But we all know where this is leading, at least in part, and the Brewers just hit a 2-run home run to take the lead in the 8th. But this is a broken team at this point. The locker room sucks. The combination of players, in the aggregate, sucks and isn't very good competitively either. And there isn't enough of a lot of different things, and there's too much of several bad things. It's a disaster. But what's the direction, right? Because obviously the mandate from top down is no more missing the playoffs, right? That was not fun for anybody, and I don't blame Craig for feeling that way. And we said all along how awful it was they played so poorly at home, and that's got to gall him to no end, as I would hope it would as an owner. But that mentality is going to short circuit any attempt at a reasonable or a meaningful rebuild. And the problem with that is that we're already down the road of a rebuild. Like, we've already started rebuilding, but now we're going to have to short circuit that because Craig doesn't want to do that, right? But it's too late. That horse is already out of the barn. So this is why I'm starting to feel bad for Fenton, despite the fact I also feel like he's an idiot GM. But I feel bad for him because he's got an impossible task ahead of him, and I don't think that he's up to it.
Okay, so the point that Barrero was trying to make about Charlie Coyle's comments were along the lines of, when you say one thing about somebody, it very well means the opposite about somebody else, right?
Yeah, and Russo mentioned that Niederreiter had said similar things to him about, maybe as indirectly, right, about how great the leadership in the room is in Carolina and commenting on it, and so the same inference.
Okay, so then maybe this is a good point for me to say that I really enjoy watching the Vikings. I enjoy watching the Twins because they seem to have a bunch of really good guys that are likable and you want to pull for them.
And how much more like